The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Josh Shigala from thestandard.io,
Well, howdy, folks.
Jimmy Song, Bitcoin expert,
Fiat Delandest.
Arthur Van Pelt, Bitcoin consultant.
Oh, he needs a microphone consultant.
Oh, you got to say hello, Arthur. You're muted there.
There you go.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Good evening to you guys.
Very good. And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, Coinbase safe? As Jameson Lott posted on Twitter this weekend, my Bitcoin is safe on the exchange that has a great track record of not being hacked. Except, according to a report released by Zach XBT and Tanuki42, they're losing $30 million a month from individual accounts being compromised. Josh Shigala, is Coinbase safe if their user accounts keep getting emptied out?
I mean, you're only as dumb as your user. And we ran Voltoro since from 2014, end of 2014 till 2021. And we never had a hack. But people are stupid and they have password as password. And I mean, you don't, we force them to not have that. But, and then we force them to have two-factor. So I don't know how, I mean, I don't know how these people are getting hacked. Honestly, if they have two-factor and that, it's probably wrench attacks or something like that. But yeah, look, it's definitely easier to be hacked on an exchange for sure. But there's always idiots. There's always idiots, and Coinbase isn't perfect. No one is. Yeah, and yeah, get your coins off exchanges. I mean, how often do you have to say it?
Well, it could be phishing attacks or holes in Coinbase. I know of people in the past that had a lot of coins on Coinbase that were lifted, but one would assume after they became a big company on Wall Street and all of that, they would have fixed all these problems, made it really user-friendly. Jimmy Song, what do you think? Is Coinbase still not hacked, even if their users are getting emptied out on the regular?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's a very tempting honeypot, and I think there have been various leaks in different places, Ledger, releasing like all the email addresses and stuff, and I bet significant number of those that are in the US have accounts on Coinbase. So there are ways to socially engineer this stuff. And it's some of this stuff is like really tricky. I remember I saw a phishing email from Bittrex, right? Because they had, shut down US operations. And I got an email saying, hey, you still have money on Bittrex. You need to like do this stuff. And I was like, oh, do I? And then I clicked through it and it looked all legit. And basically, they wanted you to hook in your hardware wallet and then allow them to access it or something like that. And they would basically drain it of all funds. But that was a really clever phishing attack. And this is where social engineering and things like that get into play. And I'm pretty good at this stuff. Not that any of my money got hacked on that, but I could easily see a lot of people falling for stuff like that. There's also, like people on Twitter with like Coinbase underscore as like the username or something like that, and they'll directly mail people. There's a lot of social engineering hacks that are happening. And people are just not technically sophisticated enough to detect what they are. And 30 million does sound like a lot though. That's probably like, at least a few hundred users a month, maybe even like 1,000. That's a lot of people that are getting like phished every time. So you would think that they'd have more robust controls in place, especially with respect to like video or something like that. And I can't imagine that they have time for that given how many altcoins they're listing. So that's probably a matter of priority for them.
Well, and at the very least, they could put some limits on people's accounts. You could only withdraw 10,000 a day, or only 100,000 a day, or any kind of a limit on the accounts.
Oh,
But
they definitely have those, and you have to get approved for like the higher limits. The thing is, like sometimes you just don't know. Like if your email gets hacked, right? And you don't have two factor, then that's pretty much you can get into any of these accounts pretty easily. And I imagine this is one of the first things that hackers look for when they compromise your Gmail account. And even if you have two factor, if you back it up with Google 2FA, you can go and get it, and then now you can go get all your Coinbase stuff, even with 2FA, which is kind of crazy. So, but that's how it is.
it's also, like you said, it's all about the mindset of the user. If you're answering the emails in the middle of the night and you're sleepy and you don't know what's going on, you've never done this before, they could empty out your whole account, like you're saying. People really have to be on the ball when they're looking at this, and the emails can look very similar. Arthur Van Pelt, what do you think about Coinbase? They all say it's safe and secure, but I don't know anymore.
No, the funny thing is, I was a customer of Coinbase, but it's long, long, long time ago. And there was this delete Coinbase action at some point. I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I joined it at that moment. So I canceled my Coinbase account, and I had it already next to another account, which I'm still with another exchange called Bitstamp since 20. What was it? I think 2013. Yeah. That's when I opened my account on Bitstamp and bought my first Bitcoin. The funny thing is, in December last year, I had my own experience that is closely related to this, and I will tell you a funny story. That's probably not so funny because it's indeed adding to the mantra of not your keys, not your coins. On the other hand, it's also related to hacking, because what happened, I wanted to withdraw some Bitcoin. I had to whitelist a Bitcoin address for that. And somehow that triggered on December the 4th a security protocol, I think, at Bitstamp. And what they did, they immediately blocked my account from everything. I couldn't do anything anymore. Not buying, not selling, not withdrawing, not anything. And well, if that lasts maybe 1 or 2 days, it doesn't really matter, and it's not bothering you that much. But to cut a long story short, this lasted 3.5 weeks before my account was unlocked again. In the meantime, I had to do a video call with their security department. In that, they asked me all the KIC questions that they had to ask, which is, yeah, okay, we have to deal with KIC these days. But they told me that, not at that moment, it was slightly later. But what happened was that one of the questions that came up in a second round of questions, I think a week later or something, was that because I'm using VPN, they were wondering why the logons on my account came from all kinds of countries in a short while. So they were like, this is not okay. And then I can understand that security and my security and their security is indeed something to consider. What bothered me a lot actually was that it took 3.5 weeks to unlock my account, because they were quite busy. They had a lot of influx of new users. That meant that I was just one of 10,000s of new users that had to go through KIC procedures. And since I have, well, not all, luckily, but still a part of my, let's call it my saving, is on Bitstamp, and I need it on an almost weekly basis to either buy some.
Seem to have lost Arthur's audio there. He's been cut off.
Oh, sorry.
I'm losing my audio.
Everything is fine on this side, to be honest.
Yeah,
Not-
I could still hear Arthur.
All right, let's keep going then. I think we're okay. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, but these attacks are amazing, Arthur. I saw one that happened to me, which was a phishing, but through email. And I think this goes to Jimmy's point as well, is that these social engineering attacks is definitely how it's done, and it's usually email. Email is the weakest point in anybody's position anywhere, because email allows for password resets and everything. And if an attacker can get into your email, generally what they quickly do is they quickly put a forwarder in, and then leave, and then they don't touch your account for ages, and you don't really know that your forwarder's on because it's so deep in the settings. But every email that you get gets forwarded to them, and then and they'll try pretty quickly to start to reset passwords all around the place, and build up if you're a high profiler, they'll start to build up your a celebrity or something. They'll start to build up a whole core of infrastructure around them, so they can start to prove to other infrastructure that they are you. It's quite unreal. And email is the biggest. Email and the phone. The phone is because SIM swaps, but also physically snatching phones, very, very tricky. Yeah.
How do you check that your email is forwarded? How do you see that?
You just go into your settings, you check your forward settings, and you make sure they're not turned on. But yeah,
okay,
the other thing with emails is super easy to spoof. I can send say you've got arthurvanpelt.com, I can send an email that says josh@arthurvanpelt.com, and it'll look like that when it arrives to you. It's just shocking. It's so bad. I don't know why the base email protocol hasn't been upgraded to sort of solve this spoofing shit. It's so bad.
There's a DKIM and stuff like that, which most services have like checks for that the domain is legit and everything. You have to sign it and things like that. There are protocols for that. Yeah,
there are, but like, why doesn't Gmail, for instance, because you can see it in the metadata that it is a spoofed account. Gmail just lets it through to the inbox.
I mean, if it's a domain that's like very similar, it's like Coinbase dash something something, then like there's nothing you could do about it because it looks like Coinbase, but it isn't. That's usually how the scammers do it. It's not from Coinbase.com.
Yeah.
But also, got to make sure you keep hold of your cell phone. Like Josh was saying, there was a guy that did Uber rides, and he would show up early and say to people, "Oh, am I your driver? Let me see your phone." And then they would give him the phone, click, 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 send the whole Coinbase account to him. Here you go. Here's back your phone. I'm not your driver. And then just take off. And you don't even have to be an Uber driver. He's just hanging out, getting the phone. But let's move on to the exit question. Is Coinbase safe? Should people keep their money on Coinbase? Yes or no, Josh Shigala?
No.
Jimmy Song?
I mean, I guess if you have all coins, but if you have Bitcoin, no, absolutely not.
Arthur Van Pelt?
Yeah, I agree fully with you.
Oh, you guys are too mean to Coinbase, but maybe they should put it in the vault, or like Jimmy's saying, get a hardware wallet, a Trezor or a Ledger, or maybe a crypto steal, something like that. There's lots of options out there. Moving on to issue 2, Bitcoin's big move. Has wave 3 begun? According to the Fibonacci spirals and the snapshots from India time, we might have ridden through Bitcoin wave 2 consolidation or runsolidation, and are in the wave 3 setup where we could see $107,000 or $109,000 a coin. Earlier, we had Bitcoin reversing losses as it topped $101,000 after U.S. delays the tariffs on Mexico and Canada. It was quite an exciting day there as Bitcoin crashed a full day before the stock market. Then the stock market crashed. Then the tariffs were temporarily reversed. Jimmy Song, what do you think about the price? The only thing any of these articles I Google care about for Bitcoin is the price good?
I mean, it's hard to tell based on the inflationary rate of the US dollar. So it's hard to say. But I will comment that during this most recent drop from 100K to below 100K, we saw an altcoin bloodbath, like just an absolute destruction. And
Yeah.
there's a tweet out there of somebody keeping track of when Bitcoin crosses 100,000. And it said first time Ethereum was like at 4,000. Second time it was at like 3,500. Third time it was at like 3,200. And then it was at like 3,000. And this most recent time it was 2,700. So I think Bitcoin might be dropping and coming up and down and whatever. But there's definitely a separation against alts, which is, I think, will hopefully help the demand for Bitcoin because yeah, the altcoins aren't doing so good, and I'm very happy about that.
There's nothing to back it up, but people on Twitter are saying that they think that the institutions are not rotating their gains into altcoins as other groups may have done with their Bitcoin gains. They might just be holding them in Bitcoin, but we don't know that. Arthur Van Pelt, what do you think about the price of Bitcoin?
Yeah, in general, I'm not a trader, so I do not follow it. Well, I do follow the price, of course, sort of a daily basis, but not for trading, just out of interest and seeing if it is finally doing the God candle or the Omega candle or whatever candles there are. What I do notice, and that is what Jimmy just I think referenced to, what we see is that indeed. The time of altcoins, we saw several waves in that. Let's say roughly around 2013, 2014, we saw the wave of the ICOs and that type of altcoin. Then a bit later, there were a few other waves. The most recent wave is the meme coins, of course. And if you take one example, how meme coins are the same type of shitcoin as all the other shitcoin waves that we've seen. The Trump meme coin, he came up with, I think, around the presidency, I think, or a few days before. In January, it rose to $72, and I think it's now, I don't know, 10, maybe 10, $15. So it dropped already dramatically. And that is, for me, a prime example of how shitcoins are really not popular anymore, luckily, and that is beneficial for Bitcoin, and that is what you can see also happening in the Bitcoin dominance is back to way above 61, 62% currently, and I can see that rise further actually to probably 70 to 75% in the upcoming year. Although I have to, of course, a little bit, this is not financial advice, of course, but I have to be careful a little bit. There is still, because it's now so easy to create altcoins, meme coins, and all the type of stuff, and they are being created by the tens of thousands every day. I even read a number that it is sometimes 1 million per day. I'm not sure if that number is correct, but it's a lot. So that will dilute, of course, the market cap dominance of Bitcoin for a bit. On the other hand, we see a flow from altcoins to Bitcoin, and I think that's good. That's how it should be.
Josh Shigala, what do you think about the price of Bitcoin?
The price of Bitcoin, I don't know. Some say it's wave 5, not 3. But how many waves? You can see so many waves in these charts. I don't know. It's a fractal, but fundamentally, round numbers like 100 are going to be ones that Bitcoin dances around for a while because people are very round number based. Robots not so much, but generally they'll they've got their goal. I'm going to sell at 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 or or 100,000 now. So it's that round number. Once it gets past that, people get over the round number of that, then 10x, here we come. And then that'll dance around that for a while. let that one sink in. But yeah, it's the price. I don't know. It's going to consolidate for a while, and let's see. But fundamentally, like I'm a fundamentals guy, and fundamentally, Bitcoin hasn't changed. It's in fact, it's only gotten stronger with the talk of governments starting to think about reserves and stuff. So it's once that happens, especially if the US kick off first, and the regulatory space, the fact that Trump released his own coin before the inauguration is just so ridiculously bullish in terms of, even though it was a shit coin, it just basically is bullish for the whole system because the SEC can't go after everyone, so there's not as much fear. I mean, the SEC obviously hasn't gone after Bitcoin before, but they have gone up. I just think it's bullish. So yeah, 10x, 1 mil, here we come. That's the number to look out for.
And now on to the exit question, where you have to predict against the source of all truth and knowledge in this universe, the Bitcoin predictor ball. Josh Shigala, will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week?
Yeah, I'm going to go higher.
Jimmy Song, higher or lower?
Higher.
Arthur Van Pelt, higher or lower?
Higher.
Oh, everyone's bullish. So I'm just going to agree with everyone this week. And now what will the ball say? Here we go. Shaking it can cause bubbles. We might need a flashlight to read it sometimes. Let's see. It says, without a doubt, the price of Bitcoin will be higher this time next week. So even the ball agrees. Moving on to issue 3. Trump media files for TruthFi Bitcoin Plus ETFs. Truth Media is giving investors the opportunity to capitalize on MAGA's campaign promises, which include U.S. energy independence, manufacturing growth, and Bitcoin adoption. According to the trademarks that they've filed related to ETFs and SMAs, managed accounts, they're launching TruthFi Made in America ETF, TruthFi Made in America SMA, Energy Independence ETF, and Bitcoin Plus ETF. Arthur Van Pelt, what do you think of the president's company's new offerings in Bitcoin and other ETFs?
When it comes to Bitcoin, I'm of course happy. The other fields of interest, it is not in my comfort zone so much, so I will leave that to others to say something about it. But when it comes to Bitcoin, I have a rather clear view on what Bitcoin is doing currently, and the ETFs fit in that view. Bitcoin started in 2009 as a sort of collectible, and it became a highly wanted collectible. Then in October 2009, people started trading in it, and it could be exchanged into fiat currencies. For me, that was the start of the store of value phase for Bitcoin. But the store of value phase is still going on. We still need to go to he'll finish 10 million, and other people even predicted higher amounts. I think Saylor is already closer to 50 million currently in his predictions. So that means that we still need to build up value, and Bitcoin still has to absorb a lot of value. The Bitcoin reserves, the ETFs, the treasuries, and that type of thing fit in that. Nicely in that phase, because people are investing and mostly saving, and not so much less trading and more saving in Bitcoin, and pension funds and those type of things. You will see that happen. That is of course happening then before the means of exchange phase, in my view. So you will see an adoption phase first in the store of value field, and only later we see more adoption in the means of exchange, so that merchants start accepting more Bitcoin. Currently, it's not so much. Let's be honest. I think it's around between 10 and 50,000 real merchants that accept Bitcoin on a global scale. Of course, there are numbers like 650 million people have exposure, let's call it like that, to the Lightning Network, but hardly, I think only a few million of them are really using it, and then only maybe a few times a month. So that still has to lift off seriously, but that's not the time yet. It's the software should be better. The protocol is working, but how it works for people on their phone is not always very friendly and things like that. But yeah, going back to the ETF again, to summarize what I said, it fits in the current phase of the store of value building of Bitcoin.
Josh Shigala, it's the same old story. Somebody new comes to Bitcoin and now they're going to fix it. Would you invest in the president's ETFs?
No. I mean, people are going to make things and products, and especially TradFi make products around products around products and around products. So it's and services. So they're going to keep doing what they're doing. You know, it means trust. It means these sorts of things. I think that maybe there's opportunity there. I don't know. If you're already a stock investor and you want to put some gains into something else, you can move stock into ETFs a lot quicker. So sometimes it works. Sometimes it's good for you. I definitely won't be. I'm not really a stock investor myself. I invest in a little bit of stocks here and there, but no, I just don't really get the space. I don't. No, not a big ETF guy.
Well, considering there are many fine ETFs offered by BlackRock and others, Jimmy Song, why would people choose the president's new ETFs?
Yeah, I mean, this is a clear product aimed at like the MAGA base, and there's a lot of people that would rather put their money in a Trump ETF rather than BlackRock or Vanguard. I mean, they sort of see them as opponents already. So I think it's a product that makes sense, right? There's a market for it. There's plenty of mom and pop kind of MAGA people that would love to invest, but they don't want to give their money to BlackRock or Vanguard and like have them enforce ESG mandates and DEI mandates and things like that. So hey, the good news is that he's putting Bitcoin as part of it, and I think you get maybe some of these people that are strong Trump supporters coming into the space. Ideally, they would learn about self-custody and all that, but yeah, it's a big market, and I mean he obviously did pretty well with Truth Social. You know, it went public, and a lot of people bought that. I don't think it's worth nearly as much as it is like intrinsically. It's just that he has a lot of fans. So this is sort of building on that, and I can totally see why he's doing it.
It is strange to think of investing as a thing that is now red or blue, or you would choose your political view more than you would choose profits and earnings or other things like this. But in a way, it's always been that way. If you think back to something like Coca-Cola, you're investing in sugar water, you're supporting sugar water and advertising. So you are making a lot of value choices. If you invest in Enron, if you invest in Warren Buffett or any of those things. Although once again, I do wish it was more that the president had an authentic Bitcoin awakening and that he just thought Bitcoin was great and he was sending it around with his friends and all those things. And he would say things like, not your keys, not your coins, and mean it. And that he wasn't just kind of bribed or influenced into supporting Bitcoin for the short term. It just is a disconnect there. Like I feel, unfortunately, not a big fan of Bukele, but I think Bukele is a little bit more into the actual ethos of Bitcoin perhaps than Trump. But he still has time. Maybe he'll learn more. Maybe this will lead him to learn more about Bitcoin. But it's probably other people managing the coins. And once again, they might politically like to choose someone other than BlackRock, but if these coins get run off, if somebody hacks them or makes a mistake, it could be very bad for the investors, but we'll see how that goes. Moving on, check out worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got all the shows you want to see. You can even click on the side yard and see on the sidebar and see what's going on. We've got shows with Josh and Ben, Tone Vase. I think we've got Jimmy Song in there too. If you click on hosts and guests, you can see all the different hosts, people that have been on the show. Here's some previous appearances by Jimmy Song on the World Crypto Network. Check it out at worldcryptonetwork.com. Issue 4, Mark Cuban says, if you want to get rich, throw a Hail Mary and invest 10% of your savings in Bitcoin or Ethereum, but you must pretend like you already lost it. Advice that Bitcoiners have been given for almost a decade. Of course, we all remember that Mark Cuban famously said he'd take bananas over Bitcoins because he could eat the bananas. He says that crypto is so complicated, but that was just in December of 2024. Arthur Van Pelt, what do you think about Mark Cuban's views on Bitcoin and bananas?
Yeah, what shall I say? Crazy guy. I'm not sharing the same views with him, so to say, of course, because I'm in Bitcoin since 2012. I mean, that's when my interest started. Of course, I'm not I wouldn't dare to call myself an expert, but I pretend to know a few things about Bitcoin. I knew already in 2012, 2013, I felt already coming that Bitcoin is on a path to become ultimately a reserve currency for the world. And I still see that more and more. I get confirmation that it's happening. I mean, if we are already now, what are we, 60 years in? And there are talks about the strategic Bitcoin reserve in America. I mean, wow, crazy. Who would have thought that in 2009? So yeah, what Mr. Cuban is saying, no, sorry, it's not my piece of cake. Sorry.
I just think it's a stunning transformation, and I'm not sure why people still listen to this guy or ask him in for invites and interviews, all these things, especially now with the Dallas Mavericks situation, where it looks like they might have traded Luka in an attempt to tank the team to maybe move it to Vegas. Jimmy Song, what do you think about Mark Cuban and the potential Dallas Mavericks situation? I think you might be a Texan. That might affect you.
Yeah, I mean, he's like I think we talked about Cuban the last time I was on the show. He's there's some really strange things going on with this guy. He sold a significant percentage of his Dallas Mavericks ownership to a group. There are rumors flying about that he had to liquidate a lot of his positions. I think he got significantly burned on all the shitcoin stuff that he was doing. So my guess is that he's financially in trouble. I think the trade of Luka was actually a way he probably got paid under the table from the NBA or the Lakers because he's in some financial trouble and he's trying to recoup or whatever. But I mean, this advice sort of goes with that general financial panic that he seems to be in, which is okay. I need to have some Hail Marys here to get back to even because I don't think his investments the last 5, 6 years has done very well. And I mean, this is a time when everybody has done very well just because of the rampant money printing. I don't know what the hell he did, but my gut feeling is that something is off on his finances and he's kind of desperate to make it back or something. And this just sort of reflects his mentality more than on Bitcoin.
Too many bad products on Shark Tank, something like that. But I'm just surprised at how archaic his advice is. Like, this is the kind of advice we were giving people 5 years, 10 years ago on Bitcoin. We're like, just give it a try, put a little bit in. We don't know how it's going to turn out. It's a massive asset. There's BlackRock ETFs, there's presidential ETFs. All of this is going on. And still, he's out there with this, like, I don't know about Bitcoin. You might lose all your money. It's a archaic view. I don't know where he's coming from. And I'm sure maybe he'll be a maximalist in a few months. He'll turn it around. Maybe he'll be back to a shitcoiner, back to a maximalist. There's a lot of places he can still go. Josh Shigala, what do you think about Mark Cuban? who famously preferred bananas to Bitcoin. And we're not even talking about that crazy expensive banana sculpture that Justin Sun from Tron bought for like $45 million, where you could duct tape a banana to a wall.
Best investment ever. I yeah, the thing about Mark, it's more about the mainstream media. I find it annoying when they'll bring out these so-called experts and they'll treat them as experts if they're so instantly Mr. Wonderful is like this crypto expert. They don't bother talking to anyone else that's been in the game for ages. They'll just talk to him, and he'll just parrot the same shit we've been saying for ages. Same goes for Sailor in a bit, but Sailor's been around a while longer now, and he's you know, obviously very heavy, balls deep. so you know, there's that. But yeah, I've never really liked the guy's investment thesis. Even when I watch Shark Tank, I think like, I don't know, man. So I think he's a bit of a luck guy. I mean, I think he was lucky with Yahoo, and I don't know. I mean, I don't want to write stuff off as luck too much because there is right time, right place sort of thing as well. But yeah, some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth, it's kind of like Peter Shifty though. Peter Shifty's a little bit more nefarious, I think, because I don't understand how he can be so dumb. So I think he's been back in the day when his words could actually move the market still. And some of us here have been long enough in the game to remember that. I think he was taking advantage of, at least his children were. So these celebrity types, I think, can try to manipulate the market, but it's too big now. They can't even manipulate it now. So I don't know what his problem is. I think he's just stupid.
I think in a lot of ways, although his new stuff is pretty good, the Shark Tank show, obviously very successful. His work with prescription drugs, having something like affordableprescriptions.com, something like that. He's doing very well. But generally, I agree, Josh. I think he's kind of like a poker player who did really well. He had broadcast.com. He was illegally broadcasting college basketball games. He sold that to Yahoo, got a bunch of Yahoo stock, and he exited before the .com crash. If he exits a week or two later, we're not talking about this guy. He doesn't own the Dallas Mavericks. This is never a story. So it's incredibly good timing. He got incredibly lucky. And I don't see that when it comes to Bitcoin. I don't see him having the luck, having the timing. I see him as being way far behind. But let's keep moving to the next story. Issue 5, Jesse Powell kicked out. When a pro-Trump crypto king came knocking, San Francisco elites locked the door. A Bitcoin pioneer's apartment purchase was rejected by the building's residents after he was in escrow. The sellers, including a powerful Democrat, say they don't care about politics. Jimmy Song, what do you think about a friend of the show, a guy I knew from college, founder of the exchange Kraken, and the troubles he's having buying luxury housing in San Francisco?
Sorry, Jesse. This is kind of what happens if you stay in San Francisco. And, you know, unfortunately, they really don't like people that are remotely, you know, differing in any point of view. It's funny because the Democrats used to be the party that allowed all kinds of dissent. Now you have to be in line with absolutely everything, or you're a heretic, and they don't let you buy apartments. I mean, honestly, apartments are a terrible investment anyway. I would encourage Jesse to go buy some land in Montana somewhere, maybe Wyoming, something like that, and so like go live a good life. You know, you can get Starlink. You can probably get some sort of, have a well there, and you can as long as you can figure out a way to generate your own electricity, you're good to go. I don't know, maybe an oil well or something. Then you're good. I say go do that rather than trying to go into this hoity-toity club.
It is quite a story, too, as Powell was attempting to return to San Francisco after leaving the city and wanted to, enrich it and add to the city and so forth with his business and the other things he does. Arthur Van Pelt, what do you think about Jesse Powell and his troubles with the apartment building?
Yeah, to be honest, it are dynamics that are happening in America. I'm from the Netherlands, so I don't follow that stuff too closely. So I'm sort of neutral. I don't know the exact dynamics going on in that city. I don't know the sensitivities around Jesse of Kraken in that city or otherwise. So I don't think I have anything substantial to contribute here, Thomas.
Well, it is a different situation in Amsterdam. A friend of mine told me a story once that somebody had gotten displaced. Their apartment was sold to a far richer person. And because of the displacement, they had to pay that person's rent for a year and a half to help them with the situation. So it is different in different countries. And over here, it sounds like he's trying to get into a very elite apartment building. Josh Chagall, what do you think of Jesse Powell and his troubles with the fancy apartment building in San Francisco?
Yeah, I think it goes a lot deeper, and I worry sometimes for people that are very vocal about their politics online, because the space has just become so retarded. And that's a legal phrase again since Trump, so it's all right. If you're very vocal and then you suddenly need to go to hospital, and this big fat blue-haired nurse comes up with a rainbow flag and Googles your name, she might just not care about the air bubble in the drip as much, and so that is a worry if you're very vocal. I mean, what Jesse's gone through doesn't seem that bad, but I'm with Jimmy on this one. Don't move to San Francisco. It's a lost cause. That place has absolutely been destroyed, unfortunately, by this complete nonsense. Look at the homelessness. Last time I was there, the homelessness was so shocking. It was really shocking. It was third world stuff. But it's not just San Fran. Like New York was like, he looked up at the power lines. It was like Spider-Man threw up. It's just so decay. It was just in total decay. And so I would like to see America come back a bit stronger and be a nicer place to live. But with this sort of attitude of kicking people out for their political views, I don't know. I'd say, it's just part of life, and don't do it. Don't do it, Jesse. Don't buy into that crap. Or you should buy just the block next to it.
Well, while his views are a little radical, I don't think that Jesse has to worry about ambulance service or anything like that in the future. I'm sure everyone will take care of him. He'll be fine. And shout out to Jesse. I hope this goes well. The last I heard about his lodging, he bought some kind of crazy mansion in Los Angeles where everything was controlled by tablets. So that sounds pretty cool too. I hope this works out for the best, and good luck to San Francisco as well. Let's move on to our final issue. MicroStrategy no more. As many had made fun of MicroStrategy for their small strategy, they've changed their name to Strategy Bitcoin, or Strategy Bitcoin symbol, or just Strategy. And they are going to accelerate their Bitcoin purchases in the fourth quarter. Additionally, other companies are copying the so-called MicroStrategy, aka Pirate at 40, Ponzi scheme strategy to buy a lot of Bitcoin and transform their companies from companies that used to do something into companies that hold Bitcoin. I'm sure this will all work out well for them as they continue borrowing to buy this Bitcoin. Josh Shigala, what do you think about MicroStrategy's new name and the legion of copycats?
I think it's a missed opportunity. It could be Strata B, something like that. MicroStrategy. I have really nothing to say about it. I mean, it's a strange world where where companies can just hold an asset and their stock moves up because of it. But it makes sense. I mean, it's been a good strategy for him. So yeah, good on him.
It could only be Strata B if it was BEE, like the insect, and they could have all the insect, the bee branding and the honey and all of that. But I agree, Josh, it's way too much to have a company whose strategy is we hold this asset, you invest in us.
Yeah, it was
Why,
like the original ETF before the ETFs. Like it was a way to
why,
invest in
why don't I
Bitcoin.
just hold the asset myself and cut out the middleman? I mean, it's just like these people who watch people playing video games instead of playing the video game. Jimmy Song, why should we buy strategy B instead of B?
Well, I mean, the ostensible reason is that you're getting sort of you're doing a leverage bet on Bitcoin basically without all of the complications of options or futures and things like that. So that's the main reason. And in fact, you can there are multiple ETFs just based on the MicroStrategy stock. So there's like 2x MicroStrategy or 2x short MicroStrategy and all kinds of stuff. The options are some of the most volatile and popular, call options, put options, which are leverage bets on MicroStrategy. In fact, I've heard it speculated that a lot of the altcoin sort of like gambling has moved over to the traditional markets with MicroStrategy because you have levered bets on Bitcoin now that you have MicroStrategy options, you have MicroStrategy ETFs, double long and things like that. So Michael Saylor is very clear about this. All of that is very good for his stock because there's a lot of demand for it. It's one of the top traded stocks in the world right now. There are people in Korea that are, buying and selling MicroStrategy stock just because they like the volatility and they like the action. And that's something that the market doesn't have much of in a fiat world because when you add fiat to anything, it stabilizes it significantly, and you don't have sort of like the violent ups and downs that make for good trading, apparently. Now, as far as their name change, I know that part of their business, their actual business, MicroStrategy, from early on, is domain names, and they've held a lot of very good domain names. One of the ones that Michael Saylor uses is hope.com. He says Bitcoin is hope. They've been sitting on strategy.com for some time. So it makes sense that they are moving to this because that's a domain name that they've had. They also famously sold voice.com to Dan Larimer before Michael Saylor got into Bitcoin for something like $30 million. And he used that actually as part of his first purchase as MicroStrategy into Bitcoin. So we have Dan Larimer to thank for part of that. Now, I mean, as far as like whether people should buy it or not, if you want a levered bet, I don't think it's a very bad way to do it. And this is what it's serving to the market. For a long time, it was altcoins that served that, but we're seeing this divergence away from altcoins because you can just do straight levered bets, and there's a lot less certainty. Where you don't have stuff like Ethereum that keeps coming in at a lower price every time Bitcoin hits 100,000. You have actual levered bets, and MicroStrategy or now Strategy tends to trade at some decent multiple of Bitcoin. As far as the business itself, I mean it's as Michael Saylor said, it's an infinite money glitch because every loan is money created out of nothing, and he can make the market is desperate for loans that have exposure to Bitcoin. So he's making these bond offerings and preferred shares and every instrument that he can think of to do it. And this is honestly like just good money management and good way of fulfilling his fiduciary duty to his company, to his shareholders. And I tweeted this out yesterday. But if you look at Coinbase from their IPO in April of 2022 to now, they're actually down from the first day of trading. They're down maybe like 20, some percentage point. MicroStrategy from that day to now is up something like 700%. And this is the big difference between shitcoin casino and holding Bitcoin. And everyone should look at that and say, I should be holding Bitcoin like Michael Saylor and not getting into every altcoin under the sun like Coinbase is doing because that's just stupid.
That is impressive as well, Jimmy. They could do their leverage bets and all that on their normal exchanges. They wouldn't have to use a weird Bitcoin altcoin exchange. They could use I don't know, whatever they use, the Robinhood, the normal things, Charles Schwab, whatever. But it is interesting. Arthur Van Pelt, what do you think about MicroStrategy and the idea that people could invest in a company instead of investing in Bitcoin?
Oh, I'm following that with interest. I don't do it myself. I'm not an investor in MicroStrategy or now Strategy. I am Bitcoin only. On the other hand, the concept is of course super duper interesting. I see it as one of those paths to Bitcoin becoming a massive good store of value. So in that sense, I have nothing against this. I also have nothing to add to what Jimmy just said about all the things that are possible, that are made possible in the market for certain types of investors that do not like self-custody on Bitcoin and that type of thing. They are more on the path of investing in stocks, etc. So that there's a gap in the market and it's being filled by MicroStrategy now. The only thing, and that is something that is nice to mention here, I think, I came across, I have no idea anymore who that was, but somebody made a remark on Twitter, now X. Strategy made probably a little mistake marketing-wise because they put the Bitcoin B on top of Strategy at the end. And that is confusing because now it is like you already said, Thomas, in the beginning. Is it strategy? Is it strategy B? Or what is it now again? They should have made that, according to this guy, probably interested in marketing or design or whatever, more like a star or a sun instead of the Bitcoin B, so that it would be wider interpretable and more like one of the domains that Bitcoin is operating on is hope.com. It was mentioned before. Then if you put more like something like a sun, it is more closely related to, for example, hope.com. And of course, it then needs a little bit more explanation. But somebody who's doing an elevator pitch for Bitcoin and strategy, of course, will manage in 30 seconds to connect the dots between that. And that made sense to me actually when this person was criticizing the name change, not the name change by itself, because strategy is, of course, according to me at least, it's a good change. It's now a shorter name. It's a good name. It's not a name that is done by another company. But the Bitcoin B is maybe a little mistake, but probably Sailor will not see it like that.
It does seem unnecessary. And as Jimmy was saying, if they own strategy.com, go with that. That's an asset. That's an incredible thing to own a major word like that. And I would put that in the ads. Just put the .com on there and everything. But we're running out of time, so we're going to go to predictions or story of the week. Josh Shigala, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
I don't really have a prediction or story of the week. Just working like crazy, and trying to build value.
All right, and they can check that out at thestandard.io. Jimmy Song, what are you working on? Prediction or story of the week? Go ahead.
I think the story of the week by far is what Doge is doing with USAID and the Department of Education and all of that. The amount of grift that is in the federal government is just absolutely mind-boggling. We're finding out that George Soros got like $48 million to, do like get all of these like district attorneys in major cities that wouldn't prosecute any crime. We're finding out that Chelsea Clinton's wedding was paid for entirely by USAID funds. We're finding out that like 90% of the media outlets in Ukraine were funded by USAID. It's just absolute batshit insanity how much this organization has been used to fund just about everything. They did lay off something like 97% of their staff. They have something like 10,000 employees. They kept 297. which I think is great. But this just goes to show for me just how excessive fiat money printing can be. And you get all of these people that are unaccountable to anybody and they just keep spending money. And because we have the money printer, they don't get checked until you have a crisis, kind of like what we had in the last 5 years. So that's showing for me just the absolute insanity. And this is just one department, right? USAID, I think, is like 0.7% of the budget. But
It's
you know, it was a, which is $40 billion still, or something ridiculous like that. But they fund so much stuff all over the world. All these newspapers, it's something like 7,000 media organizations all over the world that are all parroting exactly what the U.S. government wants them to do. I don't know if you remember, like there was like this montage of newscasters all saying the same thing. That used to be kind of funny, right? It's like, oh, they're all saying, you know, we have to be vigilant against fake news or whatever. It turns out they were all getting paid by the same people to say the same thing. And that's how incompetent they are that they make them say like the exact same thing. So the level of corruption in government is absolutely astounding. This is 0.7% of the budget. They're going to go into the Department of Education. They're going to go into the Department of Energy. They're going into the Defense Department, State Department, all of the Department of
IRS.
Justice, FBI, CIA. You know, I mean, I am paying attention to this stuff all day long because it is just outrageous how much money is being wasted on a daily basis. Doge is currently saving the taxpayers $1 billion a day already. They haven't even really dug into it yet, which is, you know, like over a year. That's like 370 billion or something like that. Hey,
It's
their target, I think, is something like 3 or 4 billion a day. At which point you're into the trillions of dollars, and you can actually close the budget deficit. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. You get into fraud and all of those. If they can root it out, man, this is gonna be a really, really interesting year. But yeah, that's by far for me the story of the week.
yeah, true, true. I love that. It's been so exciting.
Well, we'll see what happens if they go after the Department of Defense. That would be pretty interesting. For the rest of it, America is going to lose a lot of soft power, which will be taken up by China. And we might just find ourselves with a hollowed out government and no services at all. So we'll have to see how that goes. Arthur Van
Sounds
Pelt, do
good
you have
to
a
me.
prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Oh, well, just maybe a shameless marketing of something that I'm doing currently. I mean, my normal job is I work for lawyer firms all over the world, almost in America, UK, Norway, but also currently mostly in the Netherlands. My client is in Amsterdam. He has cases in America and locally here in the Netherlands. But as a hobby, and I've been on your show before about my hobby that was debunking and mapping out the fraud of one of the cosplayers in the Bitcoin arena called Craig Wright. He has been completely wiped from the face of Earth in the UK by a ruling of Justice Meller, who said you are not Satoshi Nakamoto. And in the aftermath of that ruling, Craig Wright fled from the UK. He's now somewhere hiding, literally hiding in a closet. We saw on a video sometime somewhere in Asia. They think in Thailand. But anyway, I did a podcast about that for several years with my friend Mark Hunter in England, and we are about that will not be tomorrow, but let's say maybe not this quarter anymore, but next quarter we are going to release our first book about the Craig Wright story. We're mapping out his whole history. We're diving into all the lawsuits that he has been involved in, and every year we're going to publish a book about it. So this is my shameless plug for our books coming up. Yeah, That's my story of
That
the
sounds
week, I
great,
think.
Arthur. Where can people check it out? Where can they sign up for the book?
No, we're not that far yet. Mark just put a poll on Twitter. What you like first to see? The hardcover, an ebook, or maybe also an audio recording of the book already. And we're going to listen to that poll first. But like I said, I think within a few months you will hear more of us about this. The 3 books are already written. The drafts are there. The proofreading has started. So yeah, we're on our on a path to really release that stuff. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that sounds great. Keep us updated, and hopefully you can come back on the show when it's time to launch, and we'll let everybody know about that.
Yeah. Great. Would be happy
All
to.
right. Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming. Thank everybody for hanging out with us at home. Be sure to give us a thumbs up down below and say hello in the comments or in the chat. And until